Good morning, everyone. My name is Bryn, and on behalf of the team at Phonely, I'd like to thank you for joining us today. A little bit about me before we start. I'm one of the directors at Phonely. I've worked in telecoms for nearly 20 years, and prior to that, my dad was a BT engineer for 35 years. I have many fond memories of exploring old BT exchanges as a kid with him. I'm also joined today by my colleagues Kelly and Hannah. Kelly will be helping me guide you through today's workshop, and Hannah will be on hand at the end to help you with any questions you may have. Say hi, Kelly and Hannah.
Hello.
Hiya.
Thank you. Before we properly start, just a little housekeeping. Hopefully everyone can hear us okay. If you have any questions, feel free to ask these on the right-hand side of your screen. We will answer as many questions as we can at the end. Any we do not have time for, we'll try and get back to you. I believe we'll have your email, so we'll be able to sort of contact you directly on those. So let's jump in and get started. We're going to guide you through the changing landscape of home phone services, telephone scams, and how Phonely can help you navigate it. Not many people are aware that the traditional landline system, known as PSTN, is being gradually phased out. As technology advances, many phone companies are either transitioning customers to VoIP, which stands for Voice over Internet Protocol, or they are stopping offering phone services completely. In this workshop, we will be exploring both the PSTN switch off and what it means for you, phone scams and how to deal with them, and give you an intro into Phonely's unique anti-scam features designed to protect you and your loved ones from unwanted calls and potential fraud. So what is the digital switch off? PSTN stands for the Public Switched Telephone Network. The switch off is a big change in how our phone systems work. Essentially, it's like a big upgrade in the way that we make phone calls. This is what it means for you as a user. Old phone lines are going away. Traditional phone lines, the ones that use copper wires coming into your house, won't be available. Instead, phone calls will be made using newer technology that uses the internet. The physical line going into your house will most likely still exist, but the way the phone lines are delivered to you will change. Phone calls will be handled over the internet, which means often clearer calls and more modern features. You might need new equipment, like a special adapter or a different kind of phone that works with this new system. If you don't already have broadband or a fibre connection, you will need this for the new digital phone lines to work. Some providers have already stopped offering landline services such as PlusNet, unless you're classed as a vulnerable customer, in which case they do have some differing solutions. The switch off was meant to be happening in 2025, but as of last week, there was talk of slowing the rate they move people over by extending the date to 2027. According to Ofcom, there are still a whopping 21 million landlines in use back in 2022. Even if that number halves by the end of 2025, there is still a massive amount of people to switch over to this new system. We're talking about 500,000 people every single month. While some people already have routers capable of handling VoIP with sockets built in, they're locked to that specific provider and often tied into expensive packages. Keeping your phone line independent from your broadband allows you to access cheaper options. There are many different names for the same thing, and as a consumer, it can be very confusing. But they all run on the same technology, offering the same service. So you'll see names like VoIP, SIP, digital voice, and digital phone line. They're all different names, but they're all the same thing. I'm now going to hand over to Kelly, who's going to talk to you about some of the myths around the switch off.
Thanks, Bryn. Yes, so I'll now take you through some of the most common misconceptions that we come across on a daily basis around the switch off. Hopefully this part of the workshop will serve to answer some of the questions that you've already been thinking about too. So my phone and broadband will stop working completely after the switch off. It's the functionality to send telephone calls through these copper wires that will be made redundant. So when you move over to VoIP, your calls will be transmitted via the internet instead. Next up, and something we hear a lot, is switching to VoIP means losing my landline number. In almost all cases, you can keep your existing landline number when switching to VoIP. Port into a new provider is quick and easy to do too. Where you want to port your number, but looking to keep your broadband with your existing provider, you will need to let them know that it's just the landline number you're moving and that you want to keep the internet element of the package open with them. So myth 3, VoIP calls are unreliable and have poor quality. This is a common but outdated view. Modern VoIP technology, although dependent on a stable internet connection, offers clear call quality, often exceeding that of traditional landlines. And additionally, VoIP services often come with features and flexibility that traditional landlines just can't match. Another one is switching to VoIP is expensive. VoIP can be more cost effective than traditional landline services, especially for long distance calls. As I've just mentioned, it also allows for functionality that hasn't been possible with traditional landlines. So in some cases, you can get a lot more for your money too. I'll be talking about Phonely a little later on, and this is a perfect example of this. Myth 5, I need to get a new phone. Many people want to keep the phone that they're already familiar with, and moving to VoIP shouldn't stop them from doing this. There are adapters that can easily convert your analog phone to VoIP, and these are super easy to install. It's generally just a case of plugging the phone cable into the one end of the adapter and the cable that's already attached to the adapter at the other end into your router. And finally, VoIP requires a super fast internet connection. While a high-speed connection is ideal, most VoIP calls function well with a minimum bandwidth of around 100 kilobits per second. Many basic ADSL and fiber internet plans can handle this quite easily. I'll now pass back to Bryn to talk about some of the problems customers may have when it comes to the switch off.
Thank you, Kelly. There are a handful of problems with the landline switch off, and while many aspects of the transition will be handled by providers, some users might experience temporary disruption during the switchover. This could involve service interruptions, needing new equipment, or unfamiliar features. Currently, not everyone has access to reliable internet, and this is necessary for the new digital phone lines to work. This could leave some people, particularly in rural areas, without a suitable replacement for their landlines. There are some solutions, but they're either temporary or not ideal. This is why some people are being delayed until the 2027 date. Unlike traditional landlines, VoIP will not work during a power outage. This is because it relies on the internet connection. Ofcom, the communications regulator, is still figuring out who's responsible in these situations. Like whether it's the internet provider or the phone provider that would be responsible for maintaining this connection. That's why, as part of our Phonely service, we have a feature that lets you notify family members if your device goes offline. We're also developing a mobile app for Apple and Android devices. With this app, you can still receive your landline calls on your phone even if the power goes out. We're also working on a landline phone with mobile coverage and a battery backup. We've done a recent survey that found a surprising 60% of people over 55 were unaware of the upcoming switch off. That's a lot of people. We're concerned with so many people to switch over in a short time frame, there might not be enough resources to make sure everything goes smoothly, especially if people aren't prepared. While the switch off can't be avoided, we believe it's best to get it done as soon as possible if it can be done safely. This will help minimize disruption and ensure a smoother transition for everyone. Thank you for listening to this part on the PSTN. If you have any questions, I'll try and answer them all at the end. I'm now going to try and talk to you about the rise of scam and fraud calls. Phone scams are a growing threat in the UK, exploiting increased connectivity and our reliance on technology. These scams can have devastating consequences, both financially and emotionally. In 2023, scammers defrauded a staggering 10% of people in Britain, resulting in a total loss of £7.5 billion. Being a victim of fraud can be life-altering. Studies show victims are 2.5 times more likely to require care or even pass away within a year. Worse yet, once scammed, you're more vulnerable again, with a 29% increased chance of being targeted repeatedly. Phone crime surged by 25% in 2022, with a shocking 12,328 victims every single day. No one is immune to phone scams. These are professional criminals and they know how to manipulate and pressure you into giving you up your money or your personal details. I'm just going to cover some of the common scams that we see. So these are robo and automated messages. These are pre-recorded calls claiming to be from government agencies, banks or tech support. They often threaten issues or request personal information. We often see these sort of types being from the HMRC. Impersonation scams. Scammers pretend to be someone you trust, like a family member in trouble, a government official, or a representative from a legitimate company. Their goal is to steal money or personal information. Phishing calls. These involve callers attempting to trick you into revealing sensitive information like bank details, passwords, by pretending to be this trustworthy entity. Charity scams. Scammers prey on your generosity by posing as representatives from fake charities and soliciting donations. Tech support scams. This is another common one we see quite a lot. Callers claim to be from tech companies, often Microsoft, stating that your computer has an issue and offering to fix them for a fee, while their real aim is to steal your credit card details and access your computer. Phishing. Scammers will leave you voicemails pretending to be from legitimate companies, urging you to call them back. Never call back the number provided in the voicemail, instead look up the company's official contact details. One-ring scams. A missed call from an unknown number designed to trick you into calling back at a premium rate. Simply ignore these calls unless you know the caller. If you're expecting a call and unsure who it is, you can always use online resources to search the number. Be careful though, because some numbers look like legitimate numbers but can be costly to call. For example, mobile numbers beginning in 070 or 09 numbers, these are premium rate to call. Smishing. These are phishing attempts via SMS text messages. Don't click on links or download attachments from unknown numbers. Often these will be about missed parcel delivery and trying to charge you a fee. Spoofed bank calls. This is a tactic where scammers call you pretending to be from your bank, claiming suspicious activity on your account. They may even know the last few digits on your card or other information easily attainable through data breaches. They'll then pressure you to confirm a fake security code sent via text message. Remember, genuine banks will never ask for this information over the phone. Romance scams. These are a specific type of phone scam that preys on people's emotions and desire for love and companionship. Scammers will build a fake online relationship with their victim, often over dating apps or social media. They'll then shower the victim with affection and compliments, creating a strong emotional bond. However, their ultimate goal is to manipulate you into sending them money and revealing personal information. Public awareness of these scams is often low, making people feel more vulnerable. Scammers are constantly adapting their tactics, making them more sophisticated and harder to detect. The red flags to watch out for are urgency and pressure. Scammers will often create a sense of urgency to cloud your judgment and rush you into a decision. Threats and intimidation. They may threaten legal action or account suspension to coerce you into cooperating. Offers too good to be true. Be wary of unsolicited calls promising unrealistic rewards or miracle solutions. Grainy phone calls with thick foreign accents are a common telltale sign, but don't be fooled by seemingly professional callers either. What you can do to protect yourself. Telephone preference service. It's an opt-out register for your phone number to stop genuine UK companies from calling you. Call blocking services. Many providers offer call blocking features to filter out suspicious numbers. Educate yourself. Stay informed about the latest scams and share this knowledge with loved ones. Consider phone services with anti-scam features. Some phone providers offer features that can identify and block scam calls. While everything I have spoken about may sound scary, the changes that are coming also offer a lot of opportunities for services that were not previously available. And we've built a new service around this. So I'm just going to hand over to Kelly and she's going to talk to you about this service.
Thanks, Bryn. So a little background to begin with. We're a UK-owned company based in East Anglia with all of our sales and support teams based in Suffolk. The inspiration to create an anti-telephone scam product initially came about back in 2018 following an incident experienced by our managing director and his elderly mother, who was unfortunately battling cancer at the time. The care that she required increased quickly, mainly due to her cognitive function being impaired by medication, meaning that he was spending more and more time with her at home. He was shocked at how many unsolicited and suspicious phone calls she was receiving despite being on the TPS, and quickly learned of a call from a local roofing firm who had approached her trying to convince her to unnecessarily spend thousands of pounds on repairing her roof. Luckily, he was able to intercept the transaction and save his mother thousands of pounds by doing so. Had he missed this by not being there, it would have likely been a different story, though, and could have resulted in significant financial and emotional damage, as well as a lot of effort on his part of obviously trying to recover the money lost. Then, when the news of the BT switch off, serious conversation around the phony field began early last year, when more technical resource became available internally. So, as Bryn has already said, everyone is at risk of being scammed, but we know that older adults and those most vulnerable are disproportionately targeted. If that's not bad enough, anyone who has been successfully scammed are even more at risk of being scammed again, as fraudsters share their details with other fraudsters. We also know that 1 in 3 people are reluctant to answer calls from numbers that they don't know, meaning that they are at risk of isolation by withdrawing themselves from society. For example, unanswered calls from local community groups or calls from organisations such as Age UK promoting leisure activities mean that many miss out socially too, which, as we all know, has a massive impact on mental health and overall well-being. Even more worryingly, it can lead to individuals missing out on important medical calls, such as calls from their hospital or GP. With just 1% of police funding being allocated to tackle fraud as a whole, we truly believe Phoney will play a critical part in combating telephone scams and will significantly reduce the number of scam calls a person receives, as well as help disrupt, expose, and prosecute serial scammers. Our mission is to give even the most vulnerable the confidence to answer their phone by providing a protective barrier to keep out scammers and fraudsters. We're confident that we can play a big part in helping people live independently for longer. So how are we going to do this? First and foremost, Phonely users will be able to keep their existing telephone number and even their telephone handset. Upon receiving a signed letter of authority from the customer, which then allows us to liaise with their existing provider, we handle the port process and keep customers updated throughout. Along with standard functionality that everyone expects from a telephone service, such as unlimited telephone calls, voicemail, and contact book, customers will also have access to all of the anti-scam features that Phoney offers. And when opening their account with us, we'll be asked to nominate a trusted person or people, as you can have more than one, who will be required to download the Phonely app to their mobile phone. Customers will also be encouraged to add friends and family members to their contact book at this stage. Anyone within their contact book will then be exempt from most of the anti-scam features. The nominated trusted person will be there to ensure that any potential scammers are quickly and easily identified, significantly reducing the user's risk of being scammed. Features include call blocking. This could be blocking of withheld or international calls as a whole, as well as calls from numbers customers have actually blocked themselves. Our recorded Phonely intro. This is played to the caller before the call connects, warning them that the person they're calling is protected by Phonely and that their call will be recorded and shared with a trusted third party. This in itself is a powerful deterrent, with a large proportion of scammers hanging up the call before it even connects. Call recording. As soon as the call has been answered, recording will start. Calls can then be listened to at a later date if needed, and even used as evidence in some cases. And real-time alerts. These can be sent to the trusted person for withheld, international, and uncharacteristically long duration calls. Finally, and probably most powerful, is live call joining. So there are 2 ways that this can be done. First, where a trusted person receives an alert and senses that a call may be suspicious, they can decide to enter the call live to offer their support, and this will be announced to all call participants. Or where the customer themselves feels unsure of something and in need of some assistance, they could decide to invite their trusted person to join the call by simply pressing #9. Again, upon realizing that an additional person is joining the call, scammers will most likely hang up and move on. Failing that, and assuming that the call is suspicious, it's then over to the trusted person to encourage their loved one to hang up a call. Sometimes assurance that hanging up the call is okay is all that's needed. It's worth noting that all of these features are customizable and can be turned on and off at any time. Therefore, the level of access and control that's granted to the trusted person can vary depending on the customer's needs. To end the Phonely overview, We'll now briefly take a look at the packages and handsets that are currently available. We've purposely kept our choice of plans simple. Our smallest plan is for the telephone service only, with unlimited calls, voicemail, and contact book, and is competitively priced at just $9.97 per month. For customers looking for the anti-scam protection, they have a choice of two plans. Our Phonely with Call Guard plan. This is our most popular option at the moment at £19.70 per month and includes all of the features that I've mentioned. Or you have the largest of our packages, the Phonely with Call Guard Plus plan, which includes everything mentioned, as well as call transcription and keyword alerts. So keyword alerts are sent just after a call has ended and is where a suspicious phrase or word such as bank details or payment has been mentioned throughout the call. This is something that we're hoping will be real time very soon. So once customers have chosen their plan, they'll also be required to select their preferred hardware. As you can see, we have a few different handsets available, a few different options available, including an adapter, which, as I mentioned earlier on, will convert a traditional analog phone into a VoIP phone. We also have our big button handset, which comes with an SOS pendant, as well as a cordless option, which allows for additional handsets to be located around the house if needed. We're working on expanding our handset offering and are always proactively searching the market for the latest options. All approved hardware goes through a rigorous testing process before we make it available to customers, just to ensure that they meet the highest of standards. And regardless of what has been purchased, it will arrive with the customer pre-configured, so it's ready to be plugged straight into the router and go. Hopefully I've been able to give you a good overview of what Phonely is and how it can protect, but do feel free to pop any questions that you have into the Q&A section, as Bryn said. We'll do our best to answer them at the end. We will also be displaying our contact details at the final slide too. So I'll now pass back to Bryn, who I think is going to wrap things up for us.
Thanks, Kelly. Just before we move on to answering your questions, I just want to cover what to do if you receive a scam call or think that you've been scammed. A recent survey highlighted the emotional impact of scams with the following statistics. 46% felt angry with themselves, 40% felt stupid for not realising the scam, and 38% felt embarrassed about what happened. Don't blame yourself. Scammers are experts at manipulation. Feeling embarrassed or ashamed is a common reaction, but it's important to remember you're not alone and it's not your fault. If you do believe you've been a victim, you need to take action immediately. So contact your bank. You can do this by dialing 159 from your phone or call the numbers that are on the back of your cards. And once you contact the bank, they should be able, hopefully they'll cancel all your cards and they'll potentially reverse any fraudulent transactions if there's still time. Once you've done that, then report the scam to Action Fraud and the police, and they'll be able to advise you further on where to go and what to do for support and help afterwards. Thank you for listening to me and Kelly today and everything that we've discussed. Let's answer any questions that you may have. I think I've seen a few come through. Anna, are you able to share those with us?
Yeah, of course. Had some really good questions come through. The first one from Diane. I think you might have touched on this, but if you could possibly answer that again, Bryn. Diane has asked, will my phone system still work if I have a power cut?
Currently, no, they won't. So the new digital phone lines require a broadband or fibre or an internet connection to continue working. In the event of a power cut, it's most likely that your router will stop working, which will stop the phone calls from working. You'd need something like a UPS, which you can plug in. A UPS is an uninterruptible power source. It's just like a big battery pack that will make things to continue to work. If you are ask yourself as vulnerable, you can contact your telephone provider or your broadband provider, and they should be able to provide you with some sort of service. Ofcom is still, they're the communications regulator, Ofcom. They're still trying to decide whose responsibility it lies with, whether it's the broadband provider or the phone provider, to make sure that your phone services continue working during a power outage. As I said, we're currently working on a couple of options. So we've got a mobile app coming, which will allow you to answer your landline calls on your mobile phone. And we're also working on a phone, like a desktop, a phone, like a traditional home phone that has a battery and will work with a mobile reception as well.
Thank you, Bryn. We've got another question from Diane. Diane's also asked, I have a telecare alarm. Will this work with Phonely?
It's a trickier one to answer, that one. You'd need to contact your telecare provider to see whether that service that you have is compatible with new digital phone lines. Some of them work by making a phone call directly out. So it's without knowing exactly what service you have, it's difficult for us to advise, but I would recommend that you contact your telecare provider to check before you make any moves to see whether that works.
Thank you, Bryn. The next question's from Robin. Robin has asked, I have 3 cordless handsets. The master is plugged into the PSTN socket. I'm currently with PlusNet for both phone and broadband. Will I be able to get an alternative cable to connect my master phone into my PM router?
Yes, so we provide an adapter which would sit in between your existing sort of phone and so it'd sit between your phone hub. So you've got 3 cordless handsets, and you'd have a main hub which the BT line sort of would normally go into. The BT line would then go into the adapter that we could provide you, and then you plug that adapter into the back of your internet router that PlusNet provide, and then that should get you up and running. We would need to port your number over to our service, and you'd also need to let PlusNet know what you're doing, because sometimes they'll allocate a phone number to a broadband, and the last thing we want is for us to port the phone number over to us and they disconnect your broadband. So you just need to contact PlusNet and let them do it. But yes, we would be able to get you up and running with the adapter.
Thank you, Bryn. The next question is from Linda. Linda has advised she got caught by a scammer before on her telephone. Is there any way that she can report this incident?
Yes, so the best way would be contact Action Fraud. They're sort of owned and operated by the police, and then also contact your local police force as well. They'll be able to advise you exactly what to do. I'd contact your bank as well if they have managed to sort of take any money to get all your details changed. There's also services out there like Friends Against Scams, which we'd highly recommend sort of getting in contact with as well, and they'll be able to sort of help you sort of navigate through this and sort the problem out.
Thank you, Bryn. The next question is from Steve. Steve said, I see I keep my number, but I already cancelled my old landline. Can I get this number back and move it to Phonely?
That's a good question. Possibly is the answer to that. It depends on how long ago your phone service was cancelled. If it was within the last 30 days, then it's highly likely that we'll be able to get that number back and onto our system. If it was cancelled any older than that, it's best to get in contact with us and we can see what we can do for you directly. There's maybe a chance, depending on how old it was or how long ago that it was sort of cancelled, but it's best to get in contact with us directly and we can sort of talk further about your options and what we can do.
Brilliant. Thank you, Bryn. Another one from Leonard. Leonard has asked, how long does it take to change my number from BT to Phonely, and will my phone still work during this time?
So it won't. It can take. We say it'll take up to 30 days, but generally we see numbers being moved over to our system within sort of 7 to 14 days. There's a few different variables which can affect how long that takes, but generally it's fairly quick. You shouldn't see any interruption in your service. The day that BT will cut you off will be the day that our Phonely service will become live. It should be fairly seamless. It would just be a matter of just plugging our adapter or the phone in that we provide you, and then that number would be up and running.
Thank you, Bryn. Another question from Vicky. Vicky has asked, can I restrict which numbers my elderly mother can call?
Kelly, would you be able to answer that one?
Yeah, I'll try. So are you talking obviously outbound calls?
Yeah, I think so, Kelly.
Making outbound calls. I don't think it's a feature that we have discussed internally, but it isn't something that is available right now, but it will be becoming available at some point. You'll be able to restrict the times that those calls can be made as well.
Oh, thank you, Kelly. There is another one from Vicky, and I think you might be able to answer this one as well, Kelly. Vicky has asked, how does the pendant with the big button phone work? So the pendant that you wear around your neck.
That's actually probably more of a technical question for Bryn, I would say. I'm not too sure on that one.
Sorry, Kelly. Bryn, can you answer that one?
Yeah, that's fine. I can answer that one. So the pendant links to the big button phone. You've got an SOS button on that phone, and you can program that button to call whoever you want. So it could be a trusted person, and simply when you press the button on the SOS dongle that hangs around your neck, it will just make a phone call out to that person. It will be then reliant on that person to sort of answer that call and get you the help that you need. One important feature of that little pendant is that it doesn't have a battery in it, so it won't run out of power. It charges itself by kinetic sort of energy, so as you move around it charges itself, which is great.
Oh, thank you, Bryn. That's the end of the questions. What I would say, though, if anyone can has any other questions and they want to email us, you can do so at hello@phonely.co.uk, or you can contact us on social media and we'll get those answered for you.
Okay. Thank you for joining us today. It's been an important discussion about phone scams in the UK, and we've answered some great questions. So thank you for submitting those and taking the time to join us. As we've seen, phone scams are a growing threat, causing significant financial and emotional harm. But remember, you're not powerless. By staying informed, adopting the strategies we've discussed, and considering services like Phonely, you can significantly reduce the risk of falling victim to these scams. Here are some of the key takeaways from today. Be aware of common tactics used by phone scammers. Don't rush into decisions created by a sense of urgency or pressure. Never reveal personal information or send money to unknown callers. Register with the TPS and consider call blocking services. Educate yourself and your loved ones about phone scams. As Hannah said, if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Remember, by staying vigilant and informed, you can protect yourself and your loved ones from phone scams. Thank you again for your time, and we wish you all the best. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.